Finally, I have made the ultimate weapon. I'll name it the Loadout was a game developed by Edge of Reality, a now defunct studio known for such marvelous titles as Shark Tale for the PS2, The Incredible Hulk for the Wii, and of course, the world-famous GameCube SimSport. Then they made a shooter, and it had a fun, novel concept. Loadout was a game where you created your own guns. There were no AKs, no SCARs, no ops, you made your own guns using these here parts. You could change their elemental payloads, and it did change them up a lot. For example, your gun could shoot a bundle of 6 missiles at once that naturally explode enemies, or it could shoot giant pills that heal allies, or lasers that electrocute, or... It was a very cool idea, is what I'm saying. A shame the game died. Oh, wait, that's a spoiler? You see, let's not start from the beginning, let's start from somewhere roughly in the middle. Loadout was an arcade shooter, with a few game modes like Capture the Flag, which was actually Capture the Hammer, Control Points, Kill Confirm Deathmatch, etc. The marketing material emphasized all the wacky combinations of guns you could create, and how no match is going to be the same. Look at these crazy weapons, all these different payloads, all these scopes, these stocks and barrels. However, the game's balancing was kind of weird. You had all these crazy gun parts to use. You can make your rockets fly in a corkscrew pattern and then attach sticky bombs to the wall, or Tesla spheres that bounce all over the place. You can make a projectile gun that shoots laser-guided fireballs, or you can make a plain machine gun. And that machine gun was the most effective weapon out of all of them. Yeah, no matter how stupid your guns were, it turns out that the strongest one were always the plain Jane weapons. Basic single-shot sniper rifles, basic single-shot missile launchers. Every match you joined, somebody was probably rocking a basic slug-type bullet sniper and dominating compared to everyone else. It was boring, plain in a game that was meant to be wacky, but I couldn't complain too much at the time. At least it meant the new players had a chance, a pretty good one at that, to perform well in a match, before they got to unlock any of the other gun parts. I remember one strat that was very popular earlier on, were the remote-controlled rocket campers. They would hide in the corner of the map, shoot their RC missiles configured to have the highest single target damage possible, and you start guiding them towards people. There was counterplay, you could shoot down the rocket, especially if you had the before mentioned basic assault rifle, but still, it was just stupid. If you had the RC guy on your team, he was essentially not contributing to the team at all. He had one less player. If he was on the other team, you had to deal with a never-ending swarm of mosquitoes coming in your direction and pestering you in your personal space. If the rocket did manage to hit you, boom, 90% of your health gone. All I'm saying, a game with this many customization parts requires really strict balancing, and this game did not do it the best. Not the worst, mind you, but not the best. If you managed to find a match with everyone using wacky guns, it was great fun, but there was always at least one guy who had a very boring, efficient loadout. And all of a sudden, you had to switch to your own boring and efficient loadout. Anyway, when did the game start having actual problems and start dropping off players? I mean, everything seemed fine. The future was bright, and the developers kept adding new stuff to the game. There was even a promised new payload coming out, Cryo, which would let you create temporary icy terrain, reshaping the battlefield around you. Well, first of all, the game was free to play, and the developers promised that they would never make it pay to win. It was one of their main selling points, and to be fair, they managed to deliver on it, at least early on. To fund the game, there was obviously a cosmetics store, and that was one of the main issues. The prices for the cosmetics were outrageous, at least at the time. Look at this, more than $5 for a single hairstyle. If you wanted to look fashionable, which was hard to do with the art style of the game, you had to spend roughly $20 to $40 per character, and that's not even counting the literal dicks out cosmetics, which cost like $40 each by themselves. Though honestly, I'm glad they weren't readily accessible. Also, fun fact, they were fully modeled and only pixelated in-game. There were other monetized features. For example, by default, you only had 2 loadout hit slots. So if you wanted to change up your loadout on the fly in the middle of a game, you can only pick between these 2 you prepared before the fight. But another player could switch between a near infinite amount of them had they paid for them. It doesn't seem like that much of a big deal at first, but then you realize that those extra loadout slots could be a heal build, or a buff build. They could counter a specific enemy or gun build. They could change them on the fly to sway the tide of a battle, but you couldn't. Anyway, the game was taking in a lot of players, but wasn't generating much revenue. From what I remember, most people rocked the default outfits, or whatever promotional shirts the game gave you for free, like the one with the Alienware or Twitch logos. At the same time, the situation in studio wasn't going too well either, according to Glassdoor and random rumors from various ex-employees, which you should take with a grain of salt, and everything here is alleged. Foolproof legal defense. Allegedly, the pay was below industry average. The senior staff kept getting new ideas and changing what everyone should be working on every few weeks, leading to many scrapped features, including the before-mentioned cryo payload. The upper management was notoriously horrible, there were frequent layoffs, etc. I personally remember there were new community managers every few months on the forums, and it was confusing to see them drop like flies so quickly. Now I understand why. Also, remember that thing earlier I said about no pay to win? Well, I guess they really ran out of money, because it was one of the last things they added to the game before it fully went under. Classic. Just like I said earlier, the developers yet again went wishy-washy and were like, hey, fuck it all, let's just scrap everything and instead make a PvE campaign which nobody asked for, featuring missions, loot boxes, rarities for your weapon that change their stats, all of which could be either very slowly grinded for or obtained with the money. Just throwing in all the scammy things at once that were promised to never be in the game. If that stuff stayed entirely within this new PvE campaign and not in the PvP matches, it wouldn't be the worst, I guess. But it didn't. Because of course it didn't. Players with better rarities of parts had an advantage over players who didn't. And if I remember correctly, there wasn't any way to tell what rarity parts your enemy had either. And then, for some reason, they stopped updating the Steam version entirely, where they had 90% of their player base to work on the brand new PlayStation 4 version, probably hoping it could become a smash hit and make back the money they lost. It's also where they released the PvE officially, after doing the open beta on Steam. Thanks for playing all these years, thanks for the money, thanks for the beta testing, suckers, see ya! And that was the last update the game ever had on PC. More employee layoffs happened, updates stopped appearing for even the PlayStation version, and then, nothing. The game was stuck on life support. The studio pretty much went under, but one dev kept the game running for a few more years, the game still bleeding money. And then, the GDPR Act dropped. It meant that they'd have to apparently spend a lot of money enforcing it, which in turn meant making user data more private. And it was money they did not really have. I have no clue if it was really that difficult or costly to implement. So anyway, the only dev left gave everyone infinite in-game currency as one last gesture of peace, and then shut down the game a day or two later, choosing not to make the game GDPR friendly. So, what happens now? Well, the game is dead. You cannot play it anymore, as this is what happens when you try to launch it. But thanks to dedicated fans, the game is back and fully playable. For the most part, the Loadout Reloaded project is a fan project that intends to bring back the game to its fully playable state, with no pay to win, every cosmetic, gadget and gun part unlocked and maxed out, and all that. The only caveats are that it's still in a somewhat buggy state and is lacking some features. Cut them some slack however, as they just added actual work in multiplayer after years of hard work, backwards engineering the code. Most of the footage from this video was recorded by me in Loadout Reloaded, which is why I could customize my character and my guns to my heart's content. Check it out, link to their Discord is in the description. While recording this, the people I played with seem very excited to get a new player, me, into their match. Maybe together we can revive this game. Hey, it's time for the yearbook. This is a little section for all the people that bought this yearbook tier. I will draw a drawing of you and put it on the yearbook. You can also put your own quote. First, we have Danielle, with the same quote as last time, because you can't improve perfection. I fought the floor, and the floor won. Then, we have 3 new members. First, we have Wolfy, with his iconic quote, "The best thing in life is that sometimes there's a cat," which I agree with, wholeheartedly. Then we have Elusidor, "I live how I die. I goober."
Same bro, same.
And then last but not least, Viewbot, saying, "Scratchback, your purchase of 500 viewbots has been approved and received." Oh wait, no, that wasn't meant to be included.